Hello, everybody. My name is Danielle Miranda, and thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Estrella podcast. For those of you that are listening today, I want you to get excited because Estrella is about to launch in the next couple of months, and it's about to be an amazing new platform for spiritual advisors made by spiritual advisors. So, what are you waiting for? Go to estrella.chat and sign up for our newsletter. And if you would like to apply to be a spiritual advisor on the Estrella platform, please do so. We would love to have you. Now, enough of that. Let's get into today's episode. I have the absolute pleasure of speaking to psychic medium Alicia Lyon Folberth. Thank you so much, Alicia, for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. I was just saying right before we started this recording, I was telling her how incredible she looks. She is in her 50s, looking 50-something years young, and she's so beautiful. Her skin is so flawless, and I just wanted to, again, just compliment you on that. You look amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's dive right in if that's okay.
Sure.
I would like to start off with asking if you could share a little bit about your journey and what led you to become a spiritual advisor.
Oh, that would be going back a very, very long time. No, I started having visions when I was about 3 or 3.5. That's about as far back as I can remember. They used to be so fierce though that they used to wipe out my eyesight and my hearing.
Oh, wow.
And, that's a lot. So, I would fall because here I am, this little kid. I don't know what's going on. And people would say, "Oh, Alicia, did you trip? What did you fall over?" I just couldn't explain to them. I tried to explain to them that I was seeing something. They didn't get it. Early on in life, I learned how to shut down because people were not listening. And I was realizing that I was having experiences that they were not.
Wow.
So,
that's amazing. So at the time that this was happening as a kid, it was probably hard for you to communicate with people. Did you have anybody else in your family or that was close to your family that also had these type of gifts?
they didn't talk about that. That didn't come out until I was 30 when I came out of the broom closet. I am a witch. They told me that my great-grandmother used to read tea leaves, and after she predicted her third death, she pretty much stopped. And like a little Victorian lady, she was actually doing it at church fundraising functions, at their events. So, we don't think about that these days. People doing things like that. But this is, in the days before, really, TV and radio.
These spiritual gifts in your family are generational.
Yeah, they are. There's something going on my father's side of the family, too. My cousin and I both seem to have this strange gift for picking up on spiritual odors.
Really? Could you expand on that?
Walking into a place and smelling things that are not there. That might be leftovers from somebody else during another time. It could be odors from another person. Sometimes I've picked it up on it and doing mediumship. And it was a very unusual odor. If you remember those old-fashioned soaps that you used to get like at the hotel. Yes. It was like this really archaic soap brand. And I was trying to explain that to one of my clients. And it was like it was mixed with a certain kind of perfume. And so I was explaining both the soap and the perfume of the person that was trying to talk to me because, I didn't have a name. And my client knew exactly who it was.
Wow.
So, sometimes those things will come through and I'm not looking for them to come through. They just come.
So if I may ask, when you are getting these smells, is it immediate or do you have to be in the environment for a certain period of time before you start to get these smells that you're having?
It could happen anytime. It could be random. As I found out during my readings, I kind of go someplace else, I think, when I do my readings. Part of the motorcycle going by. But Yeah, so, there were times when I used to get migraines, and once I started doing a reading, I no longer had the migraine, and once I came out of the reading, I had the migraine back. So I know that there's really something funky happening here when I do the readings and I'm not completely there, that other things start to come through when I do it. So
Do you notice that these senses that you have they gotten stronger over the years, or if I may ask, have they gotten a little weaker, or does it depend on the client that you're working with?
they've only gotten stronger over the years. One of the biggest changes was when I was leading ritual. Doing that on a regular basis, I'm not sure how I could really describe it, but if you are invoking deity and you're working with that aspect, they will make changes within you that you don't even know what's going on. And you know that those changes are there afterwards, but you can't really put your finger on it.
Right.
So I would say that although working on psychic services has been like boot camp for me, it's pushed me out of my comfort zone. The biggest changes happened when I started leading ritual. That was when the real shift began.
Wow. Do you still do that? Do you still
Yes, I
lead?
do. I have been
Wow.
running the Pantheon Temple of Connecticut, for almost 29 years now. We'll be 29 years old as of Samhain, which most people would know as Halloween.
How would you describe your approach to spiritual advising? What makes you unique? What separates you from all of the other psychic mediums out here?
I was born a mystic.
Mm.
I
Could
had
you
that in the
explain
first
that?
place. And then I really worked hard at getting good at things, realizing that my clients needed things. So I went out of my comfort zone to do that. I pushed myself to learn more. And I've been doing that anyway over the years, running a temple. So I think the fact is that not only did I have the gifts to begin with, but I've really worked with them. I really wish that more people would take the time to really work with things, to maybe really learn divination, not just play around with it, to get really good at their craft. Because if you do that, then you're really able to help people. I don't think people necessarily always see it as a sacred thing when somebody comes to you. And I do. So I think that there's a shift there for me that maybe some other people don't have.
You brought up some terms that I'm not really familiar with, and I'm sure some of the viewers that are watching may not be familiar with. You had brought up mystic and divination as a couple. Could you expound on both of those?
When I say that I was born a mystic, it means that effectively I've got one foot in the other world. You could say I was born with the veil, that I have that connection, but this is a part of who I am. It even showed up in my astrological chart. I have almost nothing in the bottom half of my astrological chart. It's like I'm being held to planet Earth by like this fine tether on a balloon. So
is that normal to not have anything in your astrological chart?
No, it's all in the upper half. So, my being a psychic, all my energy is in the unconscious collective. It's not really on terra firma. So, that there's something right there that reflected the issue that I was born a mystic. My experience is not other people's. And it's not something I can turn on or off. It just simply is. There's another dimension of life that I'm experiencing all the time that most people do not.
Does that become a little stressful for you at times, that sometimes you just can't turn it off?
Sometimes, yes, but I've learned different things to just try and shut things down or try and tune them out a bit, because otherwise it's overwhelming. Yes. Like if somebody said, well, that they see psychics on TV, and they see mediums on TV. And it's really sad for me to say that there's a when you see stuff on TV, let's face it, it's primarily for entertainment. There's a lot of bogus stuff happening on TV.
That's the beauty of TV. That's what keeps people watching, right?
People come to me expecting the same thing, that I'm going to give them a consonant like John Edwards does or something. I don't do that. I tell them, look, I need a name. I'm trying to do this through clairaudience. I'm trying desperately not to channel, because that means spiritual possession. And that isn't something, that you necessarily want to do. So I would ask them for a name. It would have to be a conversation. I'm trying to do it through spiritual hearing. And it's going to take some time. They need to be patient. And, people just like, well, I want proof right away. And, and I was like, please be patient. Just let me do the reading. Just ask the questions. Let me do it. And things will come out and you'll know it's the person. It'll come out as part of the reading.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people, they just, I don't know. There's just such this level of disrespect.
I know.
I'm trying to do this sacred thing for them and they don't want to cooperate.
Well, I think part of the problem is that we've become an instant gratifying society. So we want things, we want them as quickly as possible. And when we don't get them on our terms, then we tend to, like you said, misbehave, be disrespectful. Yes. And I know that what you do and what many other psychics out here do takes a lot of energy. And it's not easy to be able to take in someone's energy, I'm sure, and know that at times that energy is negative. And sometimes, and this is going to lead to my next question, when you're done with a session, how do you expel that person's negative energy if it is very intense and very negative? How do you get rid of it and clear it from your body?
I don't really take anything into my body. That's been one of the beautiful things about being able to do readings over the internet and over phone and all of that, that there's already this disconnection there, that it isn't somebody who's sitting down right in front of me. I used to own a witchcraft shop. That's different. It's very different when you've got somebody sitting right in front of you.
For sure, yes.
But I'm enjoying that disconnection that's already there because, I don't need to tap into their energy. I'm already tapped in. I don't need to do any of that to do the reading. But truly, if the person is not a good person, if they're not a nice person, if they come to me for the wrong reasons, they're probably not going to like me right away.
Right.
So
I have a question because I really don't know what a psychic medium is. What is a psychic medium?
Well, I have both psychic and mediumship skills. So I do have heavy clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. I'm precognizant. I'm an empath. I'm a healer. I'm a priestess. I'm a witch. I do magic. I also do the mediumship, and the mediumship is working with the spirit world. Now, when you're working with the dead, you're working with lower spirit. The deities, the gods, the goddesses, would be considered higher spirit. And it's always a little bit of a dangerous, murky world when you're working with the dead, because if you get too close to them, you might become one of them. So, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to do the channeling. It's too much on me. I end up really getting messed up because their emotions and mine overlap, where I can't really separate them out afterwards. And sometimes it still happens by accident. Because I'm a natural channel, I'm really trying to do it through clairaudience so it doesn't happen by accident.
Now, you've mentioned clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and there was another one. Can you explain what each of those mean?
Well, when you've got clairvoyance, that's sight, that's clear sight, that's clear seeing. I can do scrying. I'm one of the very rare real remote viewers out there. That's not something everybody can do. I do get, obviously, some visions of things, although I don't necessarily get that in any of my readings.
I saw a tail. I saw a tail.
Yeah, I know. She wants to help. She wants her screen name and lights, too. So, but the clairaudience is clear hearing, hearing spirit, picking up on things that, you're hearing things that aren't there. You can be, cogsentient, the clairsentience means that you're picking up on things and energy. Maybe it might even be body related. I picked up on a lot of things when I started doing Reiki, especially Reiki on my students. I found out that I was a medical intuitive when I started doing that. One of the first class sessions I had, one of my students, she said, "Oh my gosh," she's like, "what did you just see?" Because I told her, it's like, "You really messed up your wrist. What did you do?" And she had told me that she had tried to commit suicide some years before, that the scars and everything had healed over, but there were still the psychic scars there.
Right.
That had not gone away. So I ended up doing a lot of things along those lines afterwards, where it started coming out in the readings, where I even had somebody who came to me for a reading at the store, and I looked at her and she told me she was going to have the gastric bypass surgery, that she'd always been heavy. And I'm looking at her and her face is very puffy and everything. And I have asthma and allergies too. And I looked at her and said, "You have allergies. You need to get tested for what you're allergic for. And whatever it is you're allergic for, stop eating it. Stop eating it now."
It's incredible that you were able to do that.
And she did go back to the doctor, and it turned out she had a whole slew of allergies. The second that she stopped eating all of that stuff, she came to me about 2 months later, and she said, "You know what? It's just like, look at me. I've already, I've been losing weight steadily since I stopped eating all those things I was allergic to."
That is amazing. That's fantastic. I've always wondered, with talking to spiritual advisors and really dabbling into this realm, what are some misconceptions that people have about spiritual advising? I'm sure there's quite a few, but if you can name a few different ones, that just what are some of the issues that people think are happening that aren't really happening in the spiritual world?
I think that there's too much of a strange assumption that people might be cursed and they're very superstitious. And I think there's too many psychics out there that help perpetuate that. Now, I'm a witch. So if they really are dealing with some sort of weird stuff, and there are people that do hurl magic out there, then I can tell them about that. But, most people aren't very good. So, chances are, even if somebody tried, they might not have anything really on them other than, that person is just being angry with them 24/7,
So you brought up something very interesting. You said that you're a witch, and
yes,
some of the people that may be watching may be like, "Whoa, okay, she said she's a witch, so what kind of evil sorcery stuff does she have going on?" But can you just expound on, like, what do you mean when you say you're a witch? Because I'm sure it's none of that. So I would like to get some deeper understanding of what do you do as a witch?
Oh, I do everything from soup to donuts as a witch. I'm a priestess.
Wow.
It was funny because one of my clients, her husband, said, "You need to stay away from that ungodly woman." And it's like, I told her he pronounced it wrong. It's goddess woman. It's very strange that, where the whole Western mindset wraps itself around that, this evilness, this spookiness, and they want to associate it with, devil worship. But I don't believe in Satan. That's not a part of my worldview, not a part of my mindset. I'm a polytheist. I believe the universe was designed by committee. So it actually took somebody from outside of that to really recognize who I was. When I had my old store, it was across from this little diner across the street, and there was a Hindu that owned it. It was a Greek diner, though. And at one point I ordered, and my friend was there, and I let my friend, he was going to be the one to take it back. And suddenly the guy that owned it came over to him. He's like, "Now, your friend there, is she some kind of holy woman?" And my friend thought about it for a second. He said, "Yes." He's like, "I thought so." He don't even want to ask me directly, but we have different levels of, different kinds of people that may do things in a sacred way.
Right.
So I'm going to say that, I am just doing my job as a priestess, as a witch, just as much as any Catholic priest would do. He's doing his job as a priest. So, just because it is the magical aspect of it, I think that I'm more honest about things in some ways. I hear about stuff, I got an Irish client, right off the boat Irish, and he told me that, the Protestants and the Catholics used to accuse each other of magic all the time. And then
Oh,
they'd go to their priest, their minister, and say, oh, so and so put a spell on my cow. And then they'd come over and they'd, purify the cow, take off the magic. And, the same thing, with the Catholics were doing too. It just seemed so bizarre to me. And I'm like, well, we're actually really more honest about that with witches. We just do the magic, we do purification, we put up protection, and then we don't worry about it. We're not going to be accusing somebody of, putting a spell on our cow every 5 minutes. That it's all this part of superstition. I think, we haven't gotten away from that weird Puritan superstition. People that hung the witches here in the New World. I mean, that aspect is still with us, those Puritans. They really shaped our society in ways, I think, that we don't even consider. But they did leave their mark on this country, and people automatically associate witchcraft with something bad, and it's really not. And unfortunately, the people that they hung and such, even the very first witch here in Connecticut, I'm quite sure she was not a witch. I'm sure she was just a
are you
Christian.
talking about the Salem witch trials? Is that what you're talking about?
No, actually, if you must know, the very first witch that was hung was here in Connecticut, where I live. She was from Windsor, and she was hung in Fairfield. Her name was Alicia Young. There were others as well. Some people were tried and convicted, others not. But it wasn't just Salem. So, it's left very much a mark even on people's mindsets even now, where they think that, it's a bad thing. I had somebody at a former workplace come out and say, it was good that they went and they hung all those witches. They burned all those witches. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, they were evil people. I'm like, do you realize that they killed Christians? That they were, it didn't have anything to do with witchcraft. It had everything to do with power and control, misogyny. It was targeting people for other reasons.
Yeah, this is really good information to know, because I didn't know that. And as I dive more into the spiritual realm and I speak to you and so many other amazing psychics, I am learning so much, and it's so humbling to really know what goes on in your world as a psychic medium. And so I really appreciate you sharing all of that. I would like to know, if you don't mind sharing, and I know that, with discretion, we can't, reveal names or anything like that, but is there anything that you can share about an impactful session that you've had with a client in the past? Like, what session impacted you the most?
I think the one where I really had to do the remote viewing truly to find a lost person. It was an emergency.
Oh, wow.
I had a friend who I had read for contact me, who was in a foreign country where I've never been. She told me about her friend's cousin when she was staying there, that she had been kidnapped. She's like, Alicia, can you help? And I said, okay, well, give me some time and let me do my thing. And so I went and I gave her landmarks. Now, I don't see street signs. I don't see words. I don't see house numbers or anything like that, but I can do landmarks fairly well. So I told her what to look for on top of a hill, the different buildings that were associated along the road that she had to go up, even, that she had to go up into this area where nobody really was anymore, but there was a little half-finished shack that was, up in this woods at the end of this road that nobody used. And that, they had beat her up pretty bad. That they needed to get her like now. They were busy forming a group to go out using the landmarks that I had given her. When the police went and they caught one of the kidnappers, and the kidnapper squealed, and they went out and they found her. But she came back and she told me, she's like, if they had used all the information that I had given her, it was almost like a roadmap. They would have found her.
Wow.
And it's just as well that they found her earlier because they had really hurt her. She was in the hospital for a while. So, I was glad I was able to do that session for them. But, it did prove to me that what I was doing, I could take it to another level because I got forced out of my comfort zone again because this is what the client needed. I had looked for, maybe missing people and giving people ideas of where they were before and what I saw around them, but I never had to do anything quite like this before. It took me about a full half hour to do that, to give her all the information.
That is incredible that you were able to really channel in and to give them that information to find her. That is pretty remarkable. And it's a testament to your gifts and what you do. So
I'm here to help.
I am truly honored to be able to speak to you today. And I would like to ask you, expounding on that, we know that not all people are made the same, right? So everybody's needs are different. How do you tailor readings and sessions for each and every one of your clients? Because they're all coming to you with different issues, with different type of ask that they want, questions that they have. So what do you do to specifically tailor your readings and sessions for your clients?
Well, I don't really tailor them per se. I tell them where the boundaries are with me.
Okay.
I tell them what we're going to do. If we're going to do a session, if there's something that they want me to look at or whatever, I tell them, remote viewing is going to take me longer. Are you prepared to that? For me to do that? Are you ready to pay for that? Because I can't just say, it's in your bedroom. It's in the top left drawer. I can't do that. I start with the object and I work my way out and tell them what I see. And they want me to do like a bibbity bobbity boo, and I can't do that. So I have to what the limits are.
They want you to do some magic, don't they? Some instant magic.
Yeah. And even with the magic, I tell them, if people do come to me for that, there needs to be a need for it, for one. For two, it has to be ethical. And lots of times I just give out people bits and pieces of folk magic that they can do on their own that, won't interrupt anything.
I've come to find that this is a misconception with a lot of clients that go to advisors, is they expect you all to have the answers right away. They expect you all to give them exact dates, time frames. They want to know, if someone is in love with them right now, if they're going to get a job right now. And I think clients really have to understand that it takes time for you guys to channel that. And at the end of the day, you may not have the exact answers, but your gifts are able to kind of guide people down that direction. So, like I said, I think a lot of clients need to be more patient because, again, it's a misconception that you guys are basically like typewriters, like fax machines, right? You just spit it out immediately.
Well, I learned how to be fast because of the phone services. If you did not give people exactly what they wanted right away, they hang up on you.
I bet you've probably experienced that quite a bit, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I've noticed people are a lot more patient over something like a video format, but they are definitely not patient over the phone. And that people are, I'm going to say probably more emotionally brittle than they even used to be. So if you don't give them or say what they want right away or say the right thing right away, they get upset very quickly. Part of the piece that I wrote for the Daily Mail on palmistry, it doesn't go into depth so much in that article, but I have this long list of what you want to look for in a psychic and how you want to treat your reading. Because I think there's a very big miscommunication for what people think that they need and what we actually are.
Right.
I tell people, if they ask for a time frame, my time frames are approximate. I do not do exact dates because I don't lie to clients. I'm going to say within this amount of time, if nothing changes. I think the biggest misconception that everything is fated to be.
Right.
And it's not. I'm there to help people make better decisions moving forward so that they don't get caught in that situation that they don't know how to get out of.
Yeah.
To keep it before, it gets bad. And it's very strange doing a reading where I'm seeing it and I'm like, well, it looks good, but you want to be careful at this particular place because it might become a very big situation that could make or break you. And then they totally ignore that and they think that, oh, well, I'll just be with this person for the rest of my life. But I did put in the little clause in there that there was a warning.
Right.
And then they mess it all up. And then they come to me and I'm like, Alicia, help me. So
I get it. It's interesting, right? Because you get some clients that come to you and they're seeking guidance. And then at the end of the day, some of them probably don't listen. They do what they want to do, and then they come back with their tail between their legs.
Yes.
Because they didn't listen to you, and then it's a whole mess. So I've always wondered, why do people go to advisors anyways if you're not going to really like take in what they're telling you and use it to the best of your benefit?
Selective hearing. They only hear what they want to hear.
Right.
Even worse is when they mix me up with another psychic because they don't just go to one psychic, they go to 5 psychics. And,
So that's the thing too, is you get people that go to many advisors, many psychics, and they may say to you, well, this psychic told me this. So what you're saying doesn't match what they said. Or
yes.
I'm sure you get that a lot too. That could be.
And I tell them I'm not other psychics and I don't sugarcoat and I don't lie to clients. So, get used to it.
So what has become some personal practices or essentials for your own spiritual journey?
It's not even like I always am doing things for myself. Because I don't. Because, I mean, effectively, I'm in a position of service. I'm doing readings, I'm in a position of service. I'm doing things for the temple, I'm in a position of service. It is really not focused on me. I can say that maybe the gods have my back. It's not that I can't make bad decisions and get into trouble, because I can. But, I think that sometimes I think that there is some padding there. That, I'm maybe being a little bit watched over while I'm doing all this work. Because it's not really my work that I'm doing.
So is there any type of routines that you do before a reading with a client? Like, is there anything that you have, any type of cleansing that you go through or ritual that you go through before you actually have a session with a client?
No, not really. Not on the internet. In person, I always kept Florida water on the table.
Oh yeah.
I refer to that as my psychic Purell.
Smells so good, Florida water. I love it.
Yeah, so I would do that. I would wash my hands with that between readings, but that's about it. I do this old thing, which is kind of an old Scottish belief. I started doing this a long time ago with the cards. I mojo my cards every time I read.
Is that honestly what you do? Is you take the cards and you do that?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that is so
before I lay them out, I blow them every single time.
That's I like that. Hey, whatever works for you, right? At the end of the day, this is what you need to do before your session. So that is awesome to me. It looked like you hit your mouth at first. I thought it was by accident.
I'm the only one handling the cards. Everybody's safe.
So if I may ask,
yeah,
and you kind of talked about this in the beginning of the episode, but I would like to know if you could kind of go into a deeper explanation. How do you stay grounded? How do you stay centered when you're doing your work? Because again, like you had said, this is a lot on you, from the visions to the smells, to having these feelings. How do you stay grounded when you're working with so many different people?
That's an interesting question. I haven't really thought about that because I think I do it. I think I'm just an autopilot. I have hyperfocus. And the hyperfocus does permit me to focus solely on whatever task it is I'm doing. So it could be reading, it could be leading ritual, it could be painting. I'm an artist. It could be graphic design. I'm a graphic designer by trade, actually. But if I do these things, that hyperfocus allows me to be completely present, whatever it is that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So it's not, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily even grounding, because I'm never completely grounded.
That makes sense.
So I think it's really where my focus is.
Okay. I like that you mentioned drawing and graphic design. If I may ask, did you study anything like that in college, or
Well, I did go to college. I did go to art school for a little bit. I didn't get to finish because of Reagan. I couldn't borrow enough to go back. Seriously. Yeah. So getting a state degree was actually worthless. It would have been a piece of paper and nothing more. Right. I will say that probably the most gifted among us, you will probably know that they are very creative and talented individuals. They're not going to just be a psychic, or a reader or a medium or what have you. That they probably will be gifted in some other area of the arts. I believe that all of this actually functions through a connection. Mm-hmm. Now, it's been called a genius. It's also been called a daemon, not a demon. It's a kind of this attendant spirit that you have for this lifetime. That they didn't think an artist was a genius once upon a time. They thought the artist had the genius. They had that spirit, that connection to the divine. So the gifts of prophecy, healing, and creativity, the muses, they're all connected in the ancient mindset. And for myself, if you know palmistry at all, there are 3 lines underneath that finger, my third finger, my ring finger. So it looks a little bit like a chicken foot, but those are called the lines of Apollo. And that can signify you as being a healer, because, all these things were connected in the ancient mindset. They were not separate.
You've got me looking at my hand.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see.
I probably would need a good picture of your hand to really be able to properly read that. Huh. It's not coming across well on video.
That's interesting.
But, yeah. So, yeah, the most gifted people, you'll probably find them gifted in other areas. Like they might be a writer, they might be an artist, they might be a musician, they might also be an actor or a dancer. There's going to be some other creative aspect in there somewhere. Anybody who's psychic is not going to be uncreative.
Like one-dimensional.
Yes, they won't be that way.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, kind of expounding on that a little bit, like what trends do you see emerging in the field of spiritual advising? Like what do you see becoming like the next big thing?
Well, I think live streaming video is the next big thing, period. Because it's entering into our lives everywhere. It's on our phones, it's on social media. It needs to be more present, for a psychic. And for myself, I know that readings on video, over webcam are the next best thing to doing it in person. Of course, we can't always, necessarily travel to see people or anything, or they might not always be available all the time. So it creates a new opportunity to be able to connect with people. So I think that's really huge, to be able to relate to people on a one-on-one. I think there's still a disconnect when you're on the phone, that maybe you're not completely human to people as a psychic, or when you're doing something over text. People have talked about AI maybe taking over, stuff, but I'm sorry, there's no magic in binary code. There never was. I as it is, they do these little fake readings on these automated websites, and people, they got bad cards and they come to me, oh my gosh, Alicia, am I going to die? And I'm like, no.
So if somebody wanted to, let's say somebody already has the gifts, obviously, and they're looking to kind of do what you do. They want to talk to clients, they want to have sessions with clients.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody that is looking to dive into the field and become a spiritual advisor?
Really? Learn your craft.
Okay.
Take your time with it. Don't be too tempted to do readings for people right away. Realize that you're guiding this person. If you consider that as being a power that you have to influence people, you want to use it for good. So with great power comes great responsibility, as Stan Lee used to say.
Absolutely.
You need to consider that.
And this is nothing to take lightly. I mean, at the end of the day, as an advisor, you are dealing with people's lives and their emotions. And a lot of people are coming to you with trauma and, with serious questions about past loved ones. And so it's something that you, like you said, people need to take the time to perfect their craft. This isn't a race. If you're really looking to help people, perfecting your craft is the way to go.
Yeah. It's also too, something that my spiritual father and drum teacher, Baba David Coleman, who passed, used to say that the only time you should ever be looking down on somebody is when you're helping them back up.
I like that.
You shouldn't be looking down on people when you read them. I've had people that I've gone to that have done really judgy readings on me, and I just, it was at a time of crisis, and that's the last thing that you need. So realistically, you can't judge your clients. You have to help them. It doesn't matter what their problems are. You have to help them to the best of your ability. That is your sacred job. Don't mess it up.
Absolutely. So Alicia, how can people find you? What are some platforms that people can find you on?
You can find me underneath Sub Rosa Magic, SUBROSAMAGICK, anywhere pretty much on the internet. Okay. That is how I work. It used to be the name of my old store.
Oh,
Rosa Magic, and I still kept the tax license, and then I started selling on Etsy. So you can find me on Etsy too. I'm selling on Etsy. Probably the largest following I've got is on Twitter at this point.
Okay.
But I am on, Instagram and Facebook and all that. All you have to do is just look for Sub Rosa Magic or Alicia's Sub Rosa Magic, and you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, Alicia, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. It has been such a pleasure getting to know you more and your gifts. I look forward to seeing more of what you are doing, and hopefully I can get a reading from you, and we can kind of figure out Danielle and what's going on in her world here.
No problem. So, I'd be honored.
I am Danielle Miranda. Thank you so much again for joining us on another episode of the Estrella podcast. And don't forget to go to estrella.chat and sign up for the newsletter and apply to become a spiritual advisor on the platform. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.